Well, another Islamist terrorist might be back on our streets very soon. Rangzieb Ahmed, the so-called leader of al-Qaeda in Britain, the first man ever convicted here of directing terrorism, was jailed for life in 2008 for plotting carnage on our streets, for being at the heart of Britain's darkest terror networks. And yet now, unbelievably, this man could soon be walking free. Yes, the parole board weighing up his fate is back at it again. It's been reported he will say he's a changed man. But we've all heard that before, haven't we? Dangerous extremists suddenly claiming redemption the moment they smell freedom. He's been refused parole before, and rightfully so. In my strong opinion, not a single sick Briton-hating terrorist should ever be released from our prisons. And here's where it gets even more grotesque. The man who Ahmed sued the British state with is none other than our current Attorney General, Lord Hermer. Back in 2020, when in private practice, he tried to wring compensation from our own government on Ahmed's behalf, accusing MI5, the Foreign Office, even Greater Manchester Police of wrongdoing. Well, thankfully, he abysmally failed. But just think about it for a second. The government's chief legal officer today once stood in court on the side of al-Qaeda's leader in Britain. Just weeks ago, another judge wished Haroon Aswat, another 7/7 linked terrorist, all the best as he prepared to be freed. That's the kind of warped mindset we are dealing with. And in more recent memory, you'll all remember the overturning of the shuttering of the Bell Hotel in Epping.
Therefore, we grant permission to appeal, both to Somani and to the Home Secretary, against the grant of the interim injunction.
Yeah, that was Lord Justice David Bean, who was chairman of the Fabian Society, a prominent socialist think tank affiliated with the Labour Party nonetheless. He also served as the treasurer for the Society of Labour Lawyers. Additionally, he was a founding member of Matrix Chambers, alongside individuals like Cherie Blair and, of course, notably, Lord Hermer, the current Attorney General. Now, we need to work on the basis that these lawyers and judges can operate impartially and independently of any political interests. Lord Hermer would, I'm sure, point to the cab rank rule, which says that barristers must accept the cases they are offered in their areas of expertise to ensure access to justice. But it all feeds into a bigger picture that I think shows a justice system that is, in my opinion, anti-British and ideologically captured, and it can no longer be trusted to put the interests of British people first. And the establishment knows it. That's why the police rushed to cover up a Banksy mural outside the Royal Courts of Justice, showing a judge, of course, using his gavel to attack a protester. They know the truth stings. And it's no surprise to me, YouGov polling shows public confidence in the British judicial system is totally collapsing. Some people no longer believe the courts are on their side at all. And who can blame them? When judges hand down soft words instead of hard justice, when dangerous men like Rangzieb Ahmed are even considered for release, the message is clear, isn't it? The system is no longer protecting us, it's protecting them.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Right, let's get the thoughts of my superstar panel, Westminster City Councillor for Reform UK, Layla Cunningham, political commentator, Jonathan Liss, and of course, political commentator and GB News star, Will Kingston.
Okay. Why is he the star?
For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's how it is. It's how it is. It's how it is, guys. You've got titles. Right, listen. Seeing these sorts of stories, I think the British public have been thinking about the justice system quite a lot lately when they shouldn't really have to think about it at all. It's legislation, it's law, it should just pass by in the background. But Layla, you know, you've got a background, of course, in law, and it seems to me and to many British people, they feel there's a two-tier system. That's one, there's a two-tier justice system, and that judges are just not acting in their favour. We look at the Bell Hotel, it's one of the best examples I've got recently for you. How do they have any faith that people like these terrorists are going to stay locked up where they should be?
Well, I think it fundamentally comes down as well. We have an Attorney General who defended someone who was part of the worst terrorist attack our country's ever seen. And that can only be, as someone who defends that person and then becomes our Attorney General, it can only be described as a deep fundamental hatred for Britain. And that's what we have. We have an Attorney General who appears to have a deep fundamental hatred for our country. Yeah. And I think people would agree with it because terrorist ideology doesn't expire with time. If you're part of mass murder, you don't get mercy. I'm sorry.
How can you possibly say that? That's an outrageous slur to say that he is motivated by a hatred of Britain. You don't. How can you possibly reach inside his heart?
Based off past behaviour.
And you should know.
Based on his involvement in the 7/7 bombing,
You should know. I've got a serious question for you. Do you think that some people who are charged and who are maybe guilty of heinous crimes should not have access to defence? Because that's basically what you are saying.
He sued the government for compensation.
Are you saying that people should not have access to justice and that those people should not be allowed to have solicitors and or lawyers, and those lawyers, if they do sort of act on behalf of those people, are sort of somehow associated with them in their views? That's an outrageous thing to say.
The problem is that when you look at Lord Hermer's entire career, he's been involved in so many things that have been in the press in the last 12 months that make it seem like he has anything but contempt for Britain.
And he's chosen those cases.
The Chagos Islands is another example of that. How many more examples do we need to see that this man clearly doesn't love Britain and wants to put Britain first when we see that he was one of the men who was leading on the Chagos
Alex,
stuff?
this is
we need politicians who stop talking about a fair Britain. We need politicians to talk about a strong Britain.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive.
They are. Well, it obviously is under our Attorney General. We need to be a strong nation. Enough about being fair. We need to.
I think we should be unfair then. Look,
I think we should be unfair to people who've committed crimes.
Come on, guys. Here's where I disagree with you three. Because
I haven't even said anything yet.
What I find really dispiriting about the debates I have on this channel so often, when people on the right are talking about the views of people on the left, they don't merely disagree with them, they impugn their entire value judgment. They say that not only do I disagree with you, but because I disagree with you, you must hate Britain. I would never say that to my opponents. I think it's completely outrageous. It's bad faith.
I'd like to get Will involved. I want to clarify. That wasn't what I was suggesting. And there's plenty of people on the left who love Britain. But what I was suggesting is that his track record speaks very ill against him on that particular line of, yes, does this man love Britain? I don't think if I was an Attorney General or anyone, I'd put international law above the rightful ownership of sovereign piece of territory in Britain.
Well, Alex, a lot of people who like Britain also think that one of the reasons they like Britain is that people have access to justice in Britain.
Fair enough. Let's get on, Will.
There was a line that Layla said, which has been lost here, which is the critical line, and that is that terrorist ideology does not expire with time.
Agreed.
This goes to a fundamental misunderstanding that the liberal left has with fundamentalist Islam, and that is that they think that all cultures are equal. They take this liberal leftist worldview that says they must think in the way that we think, therefore they're capable of rehabilitation, therefore they'll come out and they'll sing God Save the King. This is not how it works, and this is the reason why we have a particular lens on the Gaza situation, and it's the reason that this scumbag is being let out today. It is because we have an ideologically captured judiciary that believes that somehow this sort of terrorist ideology isn't deeply ingrained in this person's DNA. Because they think about it like every other religion, when it is fundamentally different.
He got life with a minimum of 10 years. That's such an insult. 52 innocent people died in seconds.
It's an insult.
And he gets a minimum of 10 years. They don't get a life. They don't get a second chance.
No.
Their memories and their funerals are still fresh in our memory.
Clearly, he hasn't been released yet, and there's no, and when he's released,
shouldn't be even up for discussion.
everyone can appeal for parole. Everyone can apply for parole. Doesn't mean they're going to get it. He's been in jail for 17 years.
Was too
he's allowed to apply for parole. He's not going to get it necessarily.
If you come and you plot, he killed 52 people on their way to work on our soil. And we are discussing here if he should be released after how many years. It should not be up for discussion. Life should be life, especially for someone like that. And that's why we need to get stronger. We need to be a strong Britain. We need to prioritise the love for our country.
I think that's pretty hard to argue with, Jonathan.
In Parliament and in politics need to have...
I'm not saying that I think that he should be released. I don't have access to his case. I know what
should he be released?
I don't know, Alex, because I don't know what kind of a threat he poses.
No, that's not the point.
Yes, you do know what you do.
With his background, with what's happened so far, do you think, given his litany of I mean, just that one offence itself is more than enough for me, in my opinion, Jonathan, but do you think a man like that should ever be released from prison?
I think that if you pose any kind of risk to the public, then it's not in the public interest for you to be released. And that's why you have experts, or you have experts on the parole board who are able to assess the evidence.
I want to get onto something slightly separate.
Can I say, very quickly, it is not just about a future threat, it is about punishment for a crime that's committed in the past. That crime is worth 1,000 years in jail and not a year shorter.
I think that, look, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be whole life sentences. I think they should be reserved for the most serious...
Are you kidding me?
Well, I don't...
One at a time.
Is 52 innocent people dying in a bomb attack? Is that not...
What is worse for you? What is worse for you?
One at a time.
If you actually let me speak, Will, once in a while, that'd be great.
Respond, please.
Look, what exactly... I've never encountered this case before, so I don't know exactly what his relationship to 7/7 was. Now, obviously, there was a trial, and there was no argument that he should have a whole life sentence in that trial. Presumably, if the case the sentences was if he was deeply more involved in that, then it should have brought a whole life sentence.
The judiciary. That is the argument here. Should he have gotten a minimum of 10-year sentence? Because we know a minimum is usually the time you'll serve.
But that's not true, Layla. It was 17 years ago that he was sentenced.
I want to get onto this point about back onto judges here, because I think this is really when it comes to the heart of it. Or we can talk about this person's particular case as much as we like. But we should the British public always be operating under the understanding that judges are impartial? That, of course, someone like Lord Homer's got responsibilities, got this cab rank rule where they have to take it if they've got certain expertise. I'm sure, Layla, you understand that as well. You're in the legal profession. Is there... I mean, there's plenty of people who would say we need to change that system, actually, because we do need to make sure that if someone like Lord Homer becomes the Attorney General, they haven't got this politically charged background. Should judges be allowed to be more political and choose what they do in their careers?
Judges will always bring biases to their decisions. It's the reason why the decision about who becomes a Supreme Court judge in the United States is the single biggest thing that happens in any presidential term. That isn't controversial. The problem that we now have in this country is that we've given judges too much scope to actually influence the world in a way which I don't think was the case, say, 20, 30, 40 years ago. This is the reason why something like the ECHR is so problematic, because an activist judge can interpret it in pretty much whatever way that he wants or she wants. That's the real problem. The problem is we've given these people the scope to let their biases run wild.
No, I don't think we haven't given them a scope. It's who are the judges. It's not... We haven't given them anything. They've taken it forcefully.
Oh,
Well,
listen,
yeah.
listen. I want to reiterate here, Lord Homer. As I said in my monologue, Lord Homer would, of course, point to the cab rank rule, which says that barristers must accept cases that are offered in their areas of expertise to ensure there's access to justice, and of course, judges can operate impartially and independently of any political interests. Right? We contacted the Parole Board, and they said this: Rangzieb Ahmed's case has solely been referred at this stage, meaning he does not have a paper or oral hearing date set. There is no date for his review, and there is no certainty of his release. OK.